Hey guys, Mike here with EBR, and this is beautiful Bryan Head, Utah. And the reason we're up here, up over 10,000 feet, is because we've been playing around with the super fun Borealis Keystone. Now, normally when we review fat bikes, fat tire e-bikes, whatever you feel like calling them, they generally come in a similar variety. Things like rear hub motors, slappy chain derailleurs, and sometimes weights that can tip the scale north of 80, 90, and even 100 pounds, but not with the Borealis Keystone. And after spending a week on it, looking at all the specs and riding it, you can tell the folks over at Borealis, a Colorado-based fat bike company, that they've spent their fair share of time in a bike saddle because this is done very, very well. We're talking things like Shimano EP8 mid-drive motor, SRAM GX AXS wireless shifting, a fully adjustable air suspension fork by Manitow, and it only comes in at 56 pounds. So stick around and let's do a deep dive on the Borealis Keystone here and see why I think Borealis might just be raising the bar to a new standard on how a good fat tire e-bike is done. All right guys, so the Keystone by Borealis. This is a class 1 e-bike, meaning no throttle and pedal assist up to 20 miles an hour. Now this bike is priced at $5,995 and it's currently advertised as weighing 56 pounds. Now when I got this for testing, I went ahead and threw it up on our scale with a battery in it. It weighed right at 60, and when I took the battery out, it was around 51.5. So we just kind of meet in the middle and say 56 pounds, but still much more on the lighter end of most of the fat tire bikes that we see. Now, when it comes to colors, this is their red and black, but if you don't like this, they also have a gray and blue option. And then when it comes to frame sizing, there's 4 total options, which is awesome because a lot of times we see maybe 2 options, sometimes 3 options, a lot of times just one size fits most. But with 4 frame sizes, they're really allowing the rider to find the right fit of bike for them. And when you're investing a lot in your bike and you want a good performance out of your bike, having the right fit is a big deal. Now I'm 5'11", this large frame fits riders 5'9" to 6'2", and I thought the fit on me was great. I was really happy with the overall comfort factor. Now, some geo numbers for this large frame only. So starting up front at the head tube angle. Now this is steeper than I expected at 69 degrees. That's more lending into like cross-country territory, but once you factor in the longer wheelbase and the fat tires, it all starts to make sense because this can still descend confidently, especially with these big fat tires and the stretched out wheelbase. Plus you have about a 17.5-inch reach up top and a 48-inch wheelbase, and a max payload capacity of 300 pounds. So quite a bit of ride here and pretty comfortable in most situations. I was really happy with the way the bike felt and the way the bike fit me. Now, when it comes to things like tires and wheels, here we have 27.5-inch setup, but you can opt to go 26-inch should you want to when you order yours. But these specifically are 27.5 with massive 5-inch tires by Terran, excuse me. Now, these 5-inch tires, we usually see 4-inch tires, and I wasn't sure what I thought of 5-inch, but 5-inchers are really fun. They really do kind of command roll over anything you want. You kind of feel like you're driving a monster truck. Super fun. Even in the dry desert, single track I took it on, it was playful. All the way out here to the big footprint in the snow, so you can kind of snowshoe it and roll along without dipping into the snow and divvying your tire into like a snow pit. So it really does have a nice wide footprint that just lends to more traction, ultimately for environments like this. Now, the wheels on this are also a really unique feature. So they're made by Sungringle, and they are their Mulefoot 80s. Now, they're really unique because first off, they have a wider spoke pattern, and then they also, if you can look at the inside of the alloy wheels, they have cutouts where they've removed all the excess alloy they don't need to still maintain structural integrity, but lose excess weight and ultimately reduce that rolling mass that you're going to be using on a big fat tire bike, which just lends to quicker acceleration, better handling, and just a better experience, and probably a little less drain on the battery as well, which is also really cool. Now, should you want to, you can go even lighter because they also offer a carbon wheel option for this bike for an extra, I think, around $1,000, which is about right for carbon wheels. But generally speaking, and I don't know the numbers, carbon wheels at this size, you're probably going to knock 1 to 2 pounds off the entire bike, which is also another sweet area to lose weight, lose rolling resistance and rolling mass, and ultimately increase your speed and your efficiency. Now, when it comes to things like lights, fenders, and racks, they kept it pretty true MTB. So we've got a flat bar up top that's just got all your controls with no lighting. You can always add a clip-on light should you want to. And in the rear, we have no lighting as well. Pretty true for an off-road bike. Mounting points, though, can help eliminate that. So you could use clip-on lights if you wanted to. You've also got mounting points for a rear rack back here. And should you want to, you've also got two bosses on the seat tube and the down tube for mounting things like your water bottle cage or maybe a toolkit when you're out on your rides. So the motor on the Borealis Keystone here is going to be the Shimano EP8 mid-drive unit. Now this pumps out 250 nominal watts, pretty standard for a higher end mid-drive motor, but it has up to a 400% rider support, meaning it can basically help you out to 4x or 4 times your pedaling effort through its through its torque sensor based system. Now, this motor also has a respectable 85 Newton meters of torque, and I wasn't sure if that was going to be enough when I first got my hands on this bike because I did my mental just comparing it to other fat bikes we've had that are upwards of 80 and 90 pounds with these big tires. But with this smaller weight at 55, 56 pounds, 85 Newton meters, that's very efficient in the Shimano EP8 mid-drive. It handled steep climbs, chunky, loose climbs. It handles climbs really, really well. And I think it's a very well done motor tuning for this type of bike. So definitely never felt like I needed more torque or more power. It's surprisingly dialed in for what the bike is. Now, it's also got a unique system when it comes to the drive system. Now you can there's 2 apps that run on this bike. One is going to be for the Shimano EP8 mid-drive, and another is going to be for the display and controller rider profiles and ride tracking, and also screen mirroring, so you can use your phone screen as a display if you don't want the smaller one. But in terms of the motor, you can go in there and change the torque settings and speed settings and set rider profiles. So if you like a certain type of riding for one person or one area you ride, you can make a profile for that or them. And same thing for a different area or a different person. It allows you to custom make profiles that fit whatever rider or terrain you're going to face, which is a really neat feature as well. Now, when it comes to the battery, this is a 36 volt system over the more commonly seen 48 volt system that we see. Now, this 36 volt system has 17.5 amp hours, and that gives it a total of 630 watt hours, which is pretty substantial as well. All of it is encased in this down tube here with one protective cover on the outside. Now, you can remove this just like all the other e-bikes we show you. You simply take the key, put it in the slot here on the frame, turn it, and it drops it right here, so you can take it off for security, storage, off the bike charging, whatever you need to do. Another nice feature. Now, when it comes to range, they don't advertise or boast any range numbers on the Borealis website, but in true EBR fashion, I went ahead and took it for a ride myself just to get some real world numbers. Now, I did this in a unique way. This is a fat tire bike or a fat off-road bike, but I did it on paved flat surfaces, mostly flat. We had some mild rolling elevation, maybe under 1,000 feet total in elevation for the whole ride. But I put it on boost mode, so that's going to be the highest, most power, most torque, and then I rolled it on a paved path, and I got nearly 40 miles, right around 38 miles, so really solid numbers for going all or nothing on the power. Now, I'm sure had I gone down to trail mode, I would have gotten even further, and then ultimately in eco mode at the lowest assistance level, I would have gone even further, but I wanted to see when you really put this thing up in the numbers and just give it all you got, what you could get. And I got nearly 40 miles on a single charge, so really well done there, especially with these massive tires. All right, guys, so component lineup and spec build on this is pretty impressive. So I'm just gonna start back here in the rear end. So we've got a SRAM GX Eagle transmission, which is going to be wireless shifting, and that's gonna be running on these little SRAM battery packs. Now, at first, when this whole wireless shifting thing came out, I thought, oh, who wants to charge your battery pack all the time? But the reality is, once you charge this up, this can last for quite a while, several weeks to even maybe a couple months, depending on how often you ride, of course. But always a good reminder, keep either a charger with you or an extra battery in your pack. All right, so this rear cassette here is going to be a SRAM GX cassette, and it's rated at 10 to 52, which is a super wide range. So we're talking like a 520% gear range. That is really, really nice because it just allows you to be more versatile in your riding and more efficient in your hill climbing, whether you are doing a really steep climb or descending and looking for speed on flats. 10 to 52 is kind of that ultimate wide range that you like to see on just fast performance bikes that want to be able to do a little bit of everything. And I was really happy to see that instead of a more limited range like we usually see. Now up front, you've got a 36 tooth chainring mated to 170 millimeter alloy cranks. And the pedals, these are just throw-on pedals from around the shop, because when you order this bike, there's no pedals included, which for most people is fine because they're very specific about the type of pedals they want to use, whether that be, you know, clip-ins or flats or whatever you want to do. So no pedals come with it, but all in all, just throw in what kind of pedals you like to use. Now, when it comes to the braking setup, so they have another nice setup. So we're talking SRAM G2 RS brakes, and the way they did the rotor pattern was spot on. So up front, we've got a nice beefy 203 millimeter front rotor. In the back, we've got a 180, which just gives you really good stopping power. And these calipers are 4-piston calipers. So really solid braking in all conditions, and the levers up top are also SRAM G2 RS levers that have adjustable, toolless adjustable pulls on them, so you can kind of dial in that brake lever's positioning, so you're not reaching forward if you have shorter fingers, or if you have longer fingers. You can dial in how it works best for you, and ultimately just make the fit of your bike even better. Now when it comes up to this saddle, so we've got a WTB Volt saddle, which is a really popular mountain biking saddle in general. I found it to be comfortable enough. I never had any issues with it, and there's enough reviews of this saddle online you can find. Most people are pretty happy with this saddle. Now, something we don't see too often is a proper dropper post, and this is KS Lev Integra, and just having a dropper post makes things like aggressive inclines and declines when you're pedaling. It helps you manage your body weight better. So if you're in a position where you're climbing up something super steep, you can be sitting on your saddle and pedaling, no problem, but you come over that edge and you've got a gnarly descent, you might want to raise your body weight up, push it back behind the saddle. And the last thing you want is this thing paying you a visit in your rear where it's not going to feel too great, and having something like a dropper post to get it out of the way, hit your descent, pop it back up when you're done. It's just a nice feature that is seen commonly on mountain bikes, but not always commonly on e-bikes, even eMTBs, so well done there. Now up in the front, we have another kind of star feature. This is the Manitow Mastodon Pro fork. Now it's a true air spring fork, and it's got a lot of bells and whistles. So it's rated right now for 120 millimeters of travel, but there's something a little bit unique about it. So not only do we have rebound adjustment down here, so you can dial in how that fork behaves when it hits a bump, how it impacts and how it rebounds, but you also have the ability to adjust the travel anywhere between 120 and 140 millimeters, which is something you hardly ever see. Now, there's a way to do it. I'm not going to get into that process, but the shock, the way it is, comes fully able to make those changes between 120, 130, or 140, as long as they're in 10 millimeter increments. Another really unique and nice feature for this that just adds to its versatility. Now, up in the cockpit, so we have the Borealis branded carbon flat bar, a true mountain bike flat bar with a nice 35 millimeter bite. We have a race face affect stubby stem up top. And then we have on both ends Ergon GP1 ergonomic grips. Now these have nice flat pads for your palm, and I found them to be really comfortable when I was riding around. Plus they are lock-on, so they're not going to slip and come off over time. Now on both ends, you've got your SRAM G2 RS brake levers. Like I said, that does have adjustable pulls, so you can kind of dial in that fit. And then you have your dropper post lever here, your SRAM Axis pod controller for your wireless shifting on this side, and then you have your PAS and menu control buttons over here. And finally, you have your Shimano display here in the center, which let's go ahead and take a deep dive on this display and the apps as well. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and power on the bike. As you can see, it's not in a normal position, the power button. It's actually mounted into the frame, so we're going to hold this button for a couple seconds, and that'll power it on. This turns green, and the display turns on. Now, on the left side here, you have your PAS control buttons that will manage the display. So the current setup is the home screen, which has your battery indicator at the top left, your speed in the center, your PAS, which will change dynamically as you ride, on the bottom. And then this little graph here will represent the power output, but that's real time while you're riding. So as it's giving assistance, the more you use, the higher that will ramp up. Now that's going to be the basics for the home screen, but you can cycle through some data screens on here by hitting this mode button down below. So hit it once and you'll get the trip meter. Here will be the odometer, which we've never reset the trip meter, so they're both 109 miles. Your range remaining on the bike, your total time on the bike, about 8.5 hours. Average speed has been 12.5, max has been 29. That'll be your pedaling cadence, real time while you're pedaling. This is going to be the time. and then back to your speeds. And that really will wrap up the basics of the screen. Now, if you want to get into some advanced settings, most of them are handled through the app, but you can access some here, and we'll go into those now. You're going to just hold the mode button, and that will take you to the screen, and you can manage it with the buttons on the left. So the clear will just clear out all the data on the screen. The clock will let you set the time. This is actually, if you have a light powered to the bike, you can turn the light on or off through there, but this bike doesn't have a light. Now, this is the brightness for the display. This is the beeping sound you hear. Like, you could turn that off if you don't want it. I personally like it. I just know I hit it when I get the beep. Change your units of measurements, change your language, and the adjust and shift timing I personally reserve for using in the app. I wouldn't want to do it on the display. And then here is your assist profiles, which you can also switch in the app, kind of rider 1 profile, rider 2 profile. I don't know what RD protection reset is, but it sounds like something I don't want to hit unless support tells me to. And then your display speed, and then ultimately you can exit out by hitting that. But let's do a deeper dive into the apps because there's quite a bit going on in there as well. All right, so this is the Shimano eTube app, which manages the eTube and Shimano EP motor. Once you're in it, on this left tab, it'll say checking for firmware updates. Right now, there's none available, but if there was one, it would show you on this list of items that can be updated. Go to customize, and here you can change your assist profiles, so your custom rider profiles. You can adjust eco, trail, and boost, and within each, you can change the power, the torque, and the assist start level. So you can do that for eco, trail, and for boost. Now, if you go down to the drive unit itself, you can tweak the max speed. As you can see, though, it is capped at 20 miles an hour. And you can do the display speed as well. Now, in here, you can go to the switch, which is going to be for this left-hand toggle switch, and you can change or alter whether or not you want inverted or just typical up and down. You can make up pedal assist down, or you can make down pedal assist up, or vice versa. We have it in normal where you press up, it goes up, and down goes down. In the display, or for the unit itself, here you can change the units of measurements. You can change all the data that's displayed on the screen. You can change whether it beeps or not when you make an adjustment, change the brightness level and the language. Down in the wireless settings, this is going to be the name you have for it as well as a passkey, and this is just the random generated one that came with it. And here you can change whether or not the bike connects to your phone's time, so automatically updates the time based on your device. Once you're out of that, you can go over to maintenance tab. And here you're gonna see the battery status, your ride data, your error log, and if you have any issues in there, that's where you can go through and troubleshoot any issues you might be having. Now, I don't have any issues, so it's probably wondering what I'm asking for right now. So no log errors there. And we'll go back. And if you go to this tab, the little maintenance tab, you'll have some more just basic settings. You can go to Shimano ID portal. You can change whether or not the bike automatically connects to the app or not. Language, and then here you have links to user's manual, frequently asked questions, error codes, which if those come up, this is where you'll find what they mean, and then the eTube website for Shimano, and then legal terms and feedback submissions. And so that'll wrap it up for the app on the Shimano eTube. Now let's go into the SRAM AXS app. So that will be the SRAM AXS. And again, here I just added a random picture of the bike. All right, so inside the SRAM AXS app here, right on the home screen, you'll need to shake the bike for it to kind of register that AXS pod to wake up, and then they will connect automatically. On the derailleur, you can click this and you can get information about your derailleur. And on the pod, there's nothing to access there. It just lets you know that you are connected. Now you can go into your configuration controls and update these. You can go into your drivetrain settings and tweak with those. I would be very careful doing so because if it shifts good, I would not want to mess that up. And you can go into your system guides and resources where you can just get some other learning information about your bike. Down here, you'll have your sub-tabs. So we've got notifications on the bike. We've got tools, things like you can go into the device and that takes you right back to how you can control your rear derailleur. It shows it's paired to the pod, and then it has your, if you had power meters or air whizzes, then if you were spinning the bike or moving the bike, those would turn on and automatically connect as well. or things like the reverb seat post, flight attendant for the RockShox, or controllers and wireless splips. All these will pair through this app, and you can manage them through here as well. And then finally, in the settings, you can go into your SRAM ID, your rider profile, help and support, and as well as get information about the app and log out should you need to do that. And that really wraps up kind of all the ways you can control the bike, from the Shimano EP motor to the SRAM AXS components and any other wireless accessories you have on your bike. All right, guys, we're out on the Keystone, just to the top of this climb for a really fun local, kind of fun, flowy single track here in southern Utah. It's pretty popular. Figured we'd hit it, see how the Keystone feels. Almost to the top, even though this is a little downhill right here. We still got a little climb ahead, but it's really steep, and it's a good place to show you how the motor will do here. You can see that straight ahead. It's a good little clip. So let's get to the top of that. We'll start our descent. Currently got it in trail mode. Let's go this. This is almost straight up. One more. And these are definitely pretty steep. Well, that was easy. All right, so this is kind of the mouth, or the opening entry point for this trail. It's not super technical, but it's fun and flowy. Different things to hit along the way. So let's hit it. So with this long wheelbase, and these big tires, you're definitely gonna feel that in tight cornering. I mean, this is not supposed to be some agile XC bike, but as single track capable as it is, it's certainly gonna have its own set of limitations that just come with having a fat tire bike. One thing I noticed is the front shock is really nice, but with still being a hardtail, so no suspension on the rear tires, those 5-inch wide tires still do most of the work for you as far as heavy lifting goes and comfort. There's a nasty little stair step down here we're going to go down. Woo! And up to the top. All right, let's play a little bit. Little drop. These Magura brakes are top notch, boy. Feel great. The modulation on them is so good. Excuse me, not Magura, but G2s, SRAM G2s. They feel great. Even on the landings, when you get a little air, it's just very forgiving with these tires. The only rattling I hear seems like it's from the kickstand. The hub's got some typical hub noise. Look at that. Still rolls plenty fast for being as big as it is. I'd say if you've never had an e-bike and you mountain bike, you're gonna love the climbs even more because they're so much easier. just soaks everything up. I mean, it's just like really plush. And for a hardtail, that's kind of wild. But big tires are gonna big tire. It's like having a monster truck. You can just roll over whatever and not really think about it. I mean, it behaves great, even as a mountain bike, just straight up mountain bike. Alright, we'll take this line. They all kind of intersect on this trail. Jump us up. You know, aside from a small bit of loss in cornering, which is, you know, honestly, it's expected. It just ripped around, no problem. As far as motor noise goes, it's a little bit of motor noise, pretty typical of a mid-drive. It's not whiny or high-pitched, it's just kind of low and present. But the tires honestly make more noise from their wide tread than the motor does. Twisty there. I'm starting to catch a couple people on the trail, so I have to slow down a bit. I don't want to be a jerk. I'm gonna let them get ahead a bit. One thing I really like is this dropper post too. You definitely don't see that often on MTBs, or at least eMTBs, but they threw it in here and it's really helpful. All right. Take a different line. And it just rolled right up. I'm gonna let them get ahead some more. I did put on, I don't know if you can see it, but the Shimano eRide app, so you can actually use your phone as a large display. Several different type of like user interfaces, plus left and right power meter feedback. So if you have eyes that don't like small screens, if you want the bigger screen, you've definitely got that. So Let's keep rolling. Torque is so good. You just feel it push you along every time you give some pedals some gas. Alright, so there's some more to this trail, but I'm gonna wrap that up. Super fun bike, guys. Even on single track, I've now taken this up to Brian Head in the snow. You know, desert single track. Just performs really well everywhere. Let's try this hill. Oh yeah. So the trail is groomed, but it's a little loose still. But the torque, that 85 Newton meters is, I feel like, more than enough for this bike. Honestly, you have more of a focus on just maintaining your line and not letting your front tire get out from under you, because the snow can kind of give the front tire a mind of its own. But think about like cross-country trails that are open all year. You could really extend your season just out and ride. I mean, look at this. We're going uphill in snow. And then watch this part up here. You'll see how quickly I can lose my front tire. Oh, there it goes. There we go. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go around with some unrealistic expectations that you can bash through 3-foot tall drifts with no problem. But for the cross country and groom trails and packed trails that cars ride on, but they're snowy, you could really ride all year, man. That part's pretty cool. But if you get in some really deep loose stuff, just be ready, it gets squirrely. Be a good like farm bike too, man. If you got a property in the winter areas and you still need to get around, this would be awesome for that. You can even pull a little utility trailer behind it. All right, there we go. So now we got our display going. We're back on pavement, and I wanted to turn this back on here because I wanted you guys to be able to hear the tires. I don't know if it comes through on video, but really the loudest thing on this bike would be these tires on pavement and then this hub. And that's really it. I heard the kickstand slap a couple times coming off little drops, but if I owned it, I would just remove the kickstand anyway. And really, I mean, you could commute in this thing. It wouldn't be the most efficient with these big tires, but if you only had one e-bike and you lived in a place that gets plenty of snow and sand and you want to do a little bit of everything, I would definitely grab something like this as your, you know, your backcountry do-it-all bike, because it really can. But let's go chat with Ben and wrap this up. All right, guys, here we are with Ben. He is our in-house mechanic who has quite a bit of experience working on bikes from all sorts of the years, over the last 20 years, really. And he's gonna share his thoughts on the Borealis Keystone, kind of go over the things he likes and maybe some areas he would improve. And Ben, I'll let you do your thing. I will get out of your way, but real quick, I want to say thank you to Feedback Sports. They provided us with some of their Pro HD aluminum racks. These fold up fairly small. They're easy to move around because of their aluminum construction, but they're also, and more importantly, really durable and stable, even with big, heavy e-bikes on them. So if you like to tinker on your bike and put them up on stands, I will leave a link down in the description so you can check out Feedback Sports. So with that, Ben, do your thing. I'll step out of the way and just start it off with what you like about the Keystone.
All right, Mike, thanks a lot. I like a lot about this bike, and I really do. So first and foremost, I like the look of the frame. You know, it's to get aluminum to carry these types of shapes and still be this light of a weight of a bike, man, it's just awesome. It's got a great standover clearance. It just looks great. Big fan of that. The wheels for a bike this big, you would think they're going to be heavy, but these are nice lightweight wheels. When you look real close, the rims have aluminum cut out in between them, so you're just decreasing weight. Anytime you can decrease rotational weight, wheels being the biggest one of all, it will just make the bike accelerate faster. The brakes feel like they were more powerful. Just less there means better with the wheels. I'm a little confused why this one in particular comes with 2.5 millimeter wide brake rotors. Usually you only see that kind of a brake rotor on a downhill bike or maybe a cargo bike or something. I'm not complaining. I think it's awesome because it really enhances the brake feel overall. So kudos, Borealis. Great choice on that one. I do like this bike, or the fork on this bike rather, because it features a lockout. A lot of years ago, I rode fat bikes quite a bit in northern Utah, but always at ski resorts, that sort of thing. And we always had rigid forks. So to have the ability to have a suspension fork, then also make it rigid with the lockout, great choice. It's a really good part spec on this one. I'm always a fan of a tapered steer tube. What that means is it's 1.5 inches diameter here at the bottom of the frame and fork intersection and 1.1 inches at the top. That's kind of a standard these days, but as a rider, it increases strength, decreases weight, and it's just a better way to go. You can always find pieces and parts at all your stores. You know, it's always easy to point out how nice a mid-drive bike is, and this one being a Shimano, it feels nice, it accelerates nice, it feels great. There's a lot to like about this bike, Mike, but those are going to be the highlights.
Sweet, man. And what kind of things would you improve on the Keystone?
All right, well, I'm going to be picky, and mostly because there are a lot of things to like, but with this one, the pedals, I think these are our pedals, but it would be nice if this bike came with a wider platform pedal. The reason I say that is a lot of my pals that still ride fat bikes and don't clip in, they prefer to just ride regular flat pedals, are using bigger insulated shoes or boots or something like that. So the bigger the pedal platform with those bigger shoes, it's just going to make for a more stable ride feel. That's something I think they could include on a bike of this quality. This one's not on Borealis, but with Manitou, one of the gripes that I've got with these guys is how to adjust the air cartridge side. Okay, it's very common with pretty much every other fork manufacturer. You can pump air into the top of the fork here to increase the stiffness or decrease it for a lighter weight rider. With Manitou, it's here in the bottom. So it just, you've got to bend down, you've got to kind of get over it, and just, it's not as easy to adjust. For a mechanic, it's no big deal. We're used to that sort of thing, but as the end user, if you're in your garage, the bike's dirty or it's wet or something, just having it right on the top sure would make it a bit easier. The last thing, as much as I do like this suspension fork on here, when I rode fat bikes a lot in the past, we always only rode rigid forks because you've got a big enough tire that you can deflate, so it picks up a lot of those vibrations and really smooths out the ride. This bike could probably be about $500 less, and even with a nice carbon fork, rigid fork. So then you get a little bit tighter steering, lighter front end, less expense overall. It's a great fork, but I wish that it would have had a rigid one set up from the manufacturer.
Nice, man. I can tell you actually like this bike because you had very little critiques of it, but that's you and me both. So anyway, thank you, man, for your time, and we will bring you the next bike when we get it.
All right, thanks, Mike.
All right, guys, so there you have it. This is the Keystone by Borealis. In my opinion, a new standard for a fat tire e-bike, kind of just done well. Everything from the geo, the qualities of it, the frame, the build specs, the components, they just did a really good job. And you can tell the folks over at Borealis know a thing or two about riding a bike, and it shows in their final product. I had a ton of fun riding this bike. I felt like it was just a monster truck on two wheels that I could go anywhere from the dry, loose southern Utah single track all the way up here over 10,000 feet into the snow, and you can still just romp around and have a really good time. So if I missed anything about this bike and you have some questions, drop them down in the comments. I'll personally reply and get you that info. If you haven't done so already, consider liking and subscribing to the channel for more content like this. And until the next video comes, I'll see you guys out on the trail.